Atma Namaste. Let's start with a short invocation. Please close your eyes. Inhale and exhale slowly and deeply. Relax your body. If you feel any pain or discomfort at any area of your body, bring your awareness to that area and mentally say, I let go. I am not the body. The body is just a vehicle of the soul. I am the soul. I am that I am. Visualize your whole body disintegrate and disappear. All the pain and discomfort in your body disintegrate and disappear. All the cells and organs in your body disintegrate and disappear. What remains is just brilliant white light. Inhale slowly and deeply. Exhale slowly and deeply. Now bring your awareness to your thoughts and your emotions. Just observe each and every thought that comes to your mind and fades away. Mentally say, I am not these thoughts. I am not these emotions. Thoughts and emotions are just products of the soul. I am the soul. I am that I am. Visualize your whole thoughts and emotions disintegrate and disappear. All your fears, worries, frustrations disintegrate and disappear. All the preconceived ideas disintegrate and disappear. What remains is just brilliant white light. Inhale slowly and deeply. Exhale slowly and deeply. Now bring your awareness higher to your crown chakra. Mentally say to the Supreme Being, to our spiritual teacher, to all the spiritual teachers, to Grandmaster Choa Kok Sui, Lord Mahaguruji Mailing, and all the great ones, holy gurus, holy masters, saints, archangels, holy angels, and spiritual helpers. Thank you for all of your priceless blessings, for divine light, divine love, and divine power, divine guidance, help, and protection, inner healing and physical healing, good health and happiness, prosperity and abundance, spirituality and illumination. Thank you in full faith. Inhale slowly, inhale all the blessings. Exhale slowly and be aware of your whole body. Inhale slowly. Exhale slowly. Inhale slowly, inhale all the blessings. And exhale slowly. Now please put your two hands in a namaste position in front of your heart. Be aware of the presence of each and every person in this session and mentally say, Atma Namaste. I am happy you are here. Thank you. And when you are comfortable, gently open your eyes with a big smile. Atma Namaste. So welcome to the third session of book study of the book and the solar system. So let's start. Okay. So in this session, chapter 14, we are discussing about involution and evolution. So based on what we have discussed so far, you will see that there is a certain principle or pattern happening in all the phases of this solar system. And it's composed of 7 great stages. In three of them, we have involution, means spirit getting more and more into matter. And then we have the conflict between spirit and matter in the 4th stage. And then we have the rise of spirit ascending from matter. Okay, so the book says it comprises the seven great stages of involution and evolution. During 3 stages, the spirit descends into matter. the life is involved in form. The fourth stage is that of conflict between spirit and matter, between life and form. During the three remaining stages, the spirit ascends. Life evolves through and out of form. So in the three stages, first the spirit is trying to mix with matter, learn the qualities, how to manifest itself through matter, and also is looking more for individualization. Okay, so from group souls to individualize as one incarnated soul for one higher soul, so individualized soul. And then there is conflict between spirit and matter in the fourth stage, which is known as the Battle of Kurukshetra. So this is when there is like conflict. And then spirit ascends, and again from individualization, we come back to oneness. So why the spirit wants to get more involved into matter? In order to learn, to receive impressions through it. And also it's like more towards differentiation, towards individualization, towards dividing and subdividing itself. During the earlier part of the ascent of spirit, the upward arc, during which the spirit is learning to dominate matter. So in the stage 4, there is conflict between matter and spirit, and then the spirit is learning to dominate matter and to see it as an expression of itself. The tendency is still towards greater differentiation. Then if you remember, we discussed about the third outpouring, which leads to individualization of the souls, from group souls to human individualized souls. After that, again, when the spirit is ascending further, the focus will be on oneness again. Okay, so during the later part of the upward arc, when differentiation has been finally accomplished by the division of the divine life into separate human entities, the tendency is towards unity as well as towards greater spirituality. Okay, so we see this in every part of the solar system. We see this in every chain. So you see from the first globe, globe A, to globe B to globe C, we are descending more and more into matter. And then in the earth, this is the earth chain. In the earth, we have this conflict between spirit and matter. And again in globe E, F, and G, spirit is again ascending. Okay, so sometimes this globe A is called as the root or the seed of the chain. And the last globe, which is globe G, is sometimes known as the flower or fruit of a chain. This globe A sometimes is also known as the archetypal globe because it contains the archetypes of the forms to be produced in every round. But as Madame Blavatsky says, this archetypal is the earlier idea of the forms, but they get improved continuously and evolve continuously through this course of evolution. Okay, so the central point of the whole scheme would clearly be the fourth chain, fourth round, fourth globe, fourth root race. Okay, we are a little bit passing that, but we are in the fourth chain, we are in the fourth round, we are in the fourth globe. So that's why you see a lot of conflict between spirit and matter. And already we are in the fifth root race, which means we already passed that the exact midpoint of the conflict between spirit and matter. And that's why you see, as time is passing by, more and more people are getting more interested into spirituality. Now, in the previous root race, there should be more of materialization. And now as we go further and further to 6 root rays, 7 root rays, there will be more interest in spirituality rather than materialism. So based on the book, our chain being the fourth is the chain of struggle, of balance, the chain in which spirit and matter are to be interlinked and interwoven so that the highest and the lowest, the two poles of nature, shall join in one complex being. Man being the starting point for the higher evolution. Okay, is that clear? So we have this involution and evolution in every part of this solar system. Even in human kingdom we saw, and even in the globes of every chain, we see that. Even if in the whole scheme of evolution, we see that also. Okay. Any question? Okay, not yet. So, moreover, as we have just seen, we are now on the fourth globe, so that we are at the very center of the struggle, at the point of keenest combat and greatest difficulty, truly on the planetary Kurukshetra. You know, Kurukshetra is known as that struggle between spirit and matter. Okay, now we may note also that there is another cyclic process at work in the evolution of the seven kingdoms through the rounds of a chain. Each round evolves one kingdom to the highest perfection of its own type. Future types not belonging to that round are of course present, but more or less embryonic compared with their future development in succeeding rounds. Thus, in our chain, the kingdoms will be perfected as follows. So it means in every round, the focus is in perfecting one of the kingdoms. So it means the first round, the focus was in perfecting the first elemental kingdom. Second round, the focus was second elemental kingdom. The third round, third elemental kingdom. The fourth round, mineral kingdom, which is our present round. And then the fifth round will be vegetable kingdom, sixth round animal kingdom, and the seventh round is where human kingdom will be focused and will be perfected. Now we will have the perfect human beings at the end of the seventh round. Okay, besides this, in each round, an additional force is poured into the atoms. We discussed this, I think, in earlier chapters, that the atom, the ultimate atom, is made up of spirals and spirilla, and in every round we discussed that one set of force will be added, you know, like one order of the force will be added, so means which will lead to activation of one set of spirilla. For example, in round one, we have one spirilla become active. Round two, two spirilla becomes active. Round three, three spirilla becomes active, and so on. And then in round four, we have four sets of spirilla active and continues until round 7. Okay, and we discussed that this may be connected with the experience of different, what you call, different, I forgot the term. How we experience the world, like dimensions, different dimensions, we discussed that. So if you remember, this was the shape of the atom, and the force is being poured from the center where you have this heart shape, and then it will go through the whole atom. Okay, and every round, one set or one order of this force will be added, which will lead to the activation of more set of spirilla in the atom. Something like that. One more thing about the rounds. Each round appears in the case of humanity to be specifically devoted to the cultivation of a certain principle. So the present, which is the fourth round, should be devoted chiefly to the cultivation of karma, which means emotion and desire. And the next, the fifth, to intellectual advancement. Now the book says, because of the descent of the Lords of the Flame, which we will discuss shortly later in future chapters, we are a long way in advance of the program. You know, like in this round, we're supposed to focus on activation of or cultivation of emotion. But you see that we are already developing the mental faculty as well. And this is because of coming of the Lords of the Flame from the Venus chain, which helped humanity to evolve much faster. That's why we see development of intellect already. However, in the next round, development of intellect will be so much, which is like very difficult to compare with what we have right now. Okay, so the intellect we have right now will be nothing compared to the advancement of the intellect in the fifth round. Okay, clear? Now, another important principle might be taken into account. In each subplane, there are 7 subdivisions. Now, the body of a man, whilst containing matter of all the subplanes and all the subdivisions, will show activity only in the subdivisions corresponding to the number of the chains or rounds experienced or being experienced. Okay, so what does it mean? It means that in the earth chain, the fourth, in the second round, man was working with the first and second subdivisions of each subplane, and feebly in the third and fourth. Not until the 7th race of the 7th round will he possess the splendid body in which every particle will thrill responsive to himself, and even then, not as perfectly as in later chains. Okay, so means in every round, every chain, only up to a certain subdivision of every plane will be in activity. So only in the 7th round, 7th chain, we are able to cultivate all the subplanes of every plane. Okay? So, and the book says it's very difficult to create a diagram from this because of not enough detailed information about it. For the present, therefore, we must content ourselves with the general principle that in the course of evolution, man takes up the various subdivisions of each subplane progressively and becomes able to express himself through them in steadily increasing measure. So that's why as we go higher and higher into rounds, human becomes more and more perfect because we are able to use or to cultivate all the subplanes of every plane. Okay, so that was the chapter about involution and evolution and what will be the focus in every round of this scheme of evolution and the chains. Next chapter is about times and dates. Okay, but little information is available regarding the time occupied by chains, rounds, globe periods, or even races. So the book says, although there are so many people who try to actually come up with numbers that usually how much time is spent in every, let's say, round, every globe, every chain, but these are all exoteric knowledge. because the time varies. We cannot for sure say like certain amount of time is spent in every round or chain or globe, okay? But there is something which we can say in earlier stages of evolution, evolution is very slow. And as we go to later stages of evolution, evolution will be much faster. Okay, so it means time will be faster. For example, it has been thought that those in front of us will probably not be so long as those through which we have already passed. But here again, we have no certain information, and it seems useless with so little data before us to speculate. You know, what we can say is, for the present, we can do little more than enumerate the few statements made by various authorities, and this we shall now proceed to do. According to occult records, the solar system has a life stretching behind it for about 2,000 million years. 2,955,884,703 years to be precise. Okay, so more or less about 2,000 million years. 300 million years are said to have passed away in this fourth round on globe D, which is the Earth. The lords of Venus came to the Earth around 16.5 million years ago. The separation of the sexes in the middle of the third root race, which was the Lemurians, took place around 16.5 million years ago. But that separation was a long process which extended over more than 1 million years and took place at different times in different parts of the world. About 1 million years is the period allowed for our present fifth root race, which is the Aryan root race. We will talk about root races in the last session. 850,000 years have passed since the submersion of the last large island, part of the continent of Atlantis. The small island of Daitya was destroyed about 270,000 years ago, and the catastrophe previous to the sinking of Poseidonus commenced 75,025 BC. So these are the timing that we have, but again, we cannot really measure and speculate how much time is spent in every, round and every chain. Now, like this is a part of what is included in the book, The Secret Doctrine, but at the end, it is mentioned that these are all exoteric, although it's accepted in India, but is exoteric, and in esoteric sense, we cannot say with these exact numbers. Okay, now, what are these? These are about different ages, like Krita Yoga. Yoga means age. This is golden age. Then is Treta Yoga. And at the end, which is the dark ages, is Kali Yoga. So these are shown in the book Secret Doctrine, but again, we cannot say this is 100% like this. In esoteric sciences, the timings is believed to be different, it's not exact. But what we can say is at the present time, we are said to be at the very close of the Aryan Kali Yoga, means the dark ages. Now, if you remember, I don't know how many of you have read the book, The Existence of God is Self-Evident. Towards the end, Grandmaster included some research about the golden age and dark ages from Sri Yukteswar. Okay, I couldn't find the exact photo of the diagram shown in the book Existence of God is Self-Evident, but it is something like this. Okay, so, and if you see where we are right now, we just passed the dark ages, the summit, the midpoint of the dark ages. and we should be somewhere here. So it means we are in the ascending arc already towards the golden ages. We already passed the dark ages, which is believed to be, so the book says, at the present time we are said to be very close to the Aryan Kali Yoga, which is correct because based on the diagram also shown in the book by Sri Yukteswar and is included in The Existence of God is Self-Evident, we have passed it and we are now in the ascending arc. Okay, now the book Existence of God is Self-Evident even explain why we have different ages, why we have dark ages and why we have golden ages. And it says that our sun has a dual sun. Okay, and this sun and the dual sun, they revolve around the center of the galaxy. And when our sun is furthest from the center of the galaxy, we have dark ages. And when the sun is closest to the center of the galaxy, we have the golden age. And it was said, if I'm not mistaken, that this whole cycle will take, yes, here it has written 24,000 years, this whole cycle. And so each arc will take for 12,000 years. Okay, so if you want to know more, you can read that part of the book, Existence of God is Self-Evident, which is from page 113. It explains in detail why these golden ages and dark ages happen. Okay, so basically about dates and times, there is not much detail available, and whatever detail is written, it's considered as exoteric. We only have some dates which was recorded by the occult society, which we already read from the book. Okay, now we will talk about different root races in the last session. So this is like a summary, but we will discuss about this in detail later. Okay, so now we will focus on the planetary chain logoi, and then we will talk about different spiritual beings and teachers. So we saw in previous chapters that the solar logos contain within himself 7 planetary logoi, which are the centers of force within him. We discussed about the planets, okay, and we discussed that how each planet is like a chakra or an energy force in the whole body of the solar logos. Now, in Hinduism, these are known as the 7 sons of Aditi, and the 8th is the sun itself. In ancient Egypt, they are known as the 7 mystery gods. In Zoroastrianism, they are known as the 7 Amshaspans. In Judaism, the 7 Sephiroth. In Christianity and Islam, the 7 archangels. And in modern theosophy, they are called the 7 planetary logoi. So the matter of the solar system, which we have seen, composes the vehicles of the solar logos, also composes the vehicles of the planetary logos. For there is no particle of matter anywhere in the system which is not part of one or other of them. Okay, so it means you take any particle of the solar system is part of the solar logos and also part of one of these planetary logos. Now let's take an example of astral matter just to understand. Okay, so every particle of the astral matter of the system is not only part of the astral body of the solar logos, but it is also part of the astral body of one or other of the 7 planetary logoi. Hence, in every man's astral body, there are particles belonging to each of the 7 planetary logoi, but the proportions vary infinitely. Okay. Now, each monad originally come forth through one planetary logos, and he will continue all through his evolution to have more of the particles of that logos than of any other. In this way, people may be distinguished as primarily belonging to one or other of these 7 great powers. Okay, now, I'm not sure how much you're familiar with the concept of 7 rays. So basically, 7 rays are originated each from one of these 7 planetary logoi. And every monad in pranic healing language is a divine spark. Every monad comes forth from one of these 7 planetary logoi. So it means every monad is connected with one ray, or means it has one ray in essence. But it's a bit hard to say which ray each monad belongs to, because every personality or every higher soul, every incarnated soul also has what you call a certain ray. So by looking at the characteristics of every person, we cannot say what is the ray of its monad. Okay, so it's a bit hard. We will do one study session on the 7 rays, maybe later on in future months. Okay, so in the planetary logoi, certain psychic changes periodically occur. Possibly they correspond on some infinitely higher level to inbreeding and outbreeding, or to the breathing of the heart with us down here on the physical plane. So basically it means every little change which happen in the planetary logoi, every little psychic change, it will affect us in this planet Earth, because our particles, our the matter is composed of, how to say, it's part of the solar logoi, but also part of one of these planetary logos. Some of these periodic changes are more rapid than others, so that a very complicated series of effects is produced. It has been observed that a clue to the operation of these great cosmic influences at any given moment is afforded by the movements of the associated physical planets. So this is the basis behind astrology. Like in astrology, they calculate what is the effect of every planet on the person who is born, and then it will affect to a certain degree the life of the humans on Earth. Something like that. Means any change in any psychic changes which happen in any of the planetary logoi, it affects us on Earth, because our particles are a part of them. Now, since our astral bodies are built of the very matter of their astral bodies, it follows that no one of these planetary logoi can change astrally in any way without thereby affecting the astral body of every man in the world. So this is exactly what we just discussed. Okay, any question? So we will talk about the 7 rays in detail in future months, but oh, thank you so much. Arka just shared the images of the book Existence of God is Self-Evident, which I was discussing earlier. Okay, so every monad basically is come forth from one of these planetary logos, which also known as 7 sons of Aditi or 7 Amshaspans in Zoroastrianism, for example. And then each of these has a quality, each of these has a color, and therefore, any changes happen psychically in any of these planetary logoi affect the life of people on Earth. Now, what is the Lipika and the Devarajas? So Madame Blavatsky writes of a certain order of supernal beings whom she calls the Lipika, or lords of karma. You have heard about karma a lot, right? And so we have many lords of karma who actually write and observe what we do, what actions we are doing, and what should be the, like, what is the cause and what should be the result. Okay, so we are further told that in the administration of karma, their agents are the four, in reality seven, Devarajas, or regents of the earth. So Lipika means lords of karma, and the administration of karma means the agents are known as four, but in reality seven Devarajas. Each of these is at the head of a certain vast group of devas. Deva means being or nature, spirit, and even of elemental essence. For purpose of explanation, let us take one plane only, the astral, bearing in mind that the precisely similar considerations apply to all the other planes as well. Okay, now we want to discuss how this affects us. So for understanding, we only take one matter as an example. Okay, now astral matter as an example. The astral matter as a whole is specifically under the control of one of these Devarajas. But as the astral plane is the sixth of our seven planes, so the sixth subplane of every plane is also to a certain extent under the direction of the same Devaraja, because that subplane bears the same relation to the plane of which it is a part as the astral plane as a whole does to the set of seven planes. Hence, for every subplane, there are two influences, the influence of the ruler of the whole plane and the sub-influence of the ruler of the subplane. To understand better. Okay, so means every matter is influenced in three ways. One of the seven planetary logoi, as we just discussed. Two, the Devaraja of the plane as a whole. And three, the Devaraja of the subplane to which that portion of matter belongs. Okay, so for example, taking the astral plane as an example, so every type of matter is influenced by one of the planets. Okay, one of these planetary logos. The sixth plane is influenced by one Devaraja. Okay, so we say the astral plane is influenced by one Devaraja. And the sixth subplane of every plane in every matter is also influenced by the same Devaraja. So it means every matter, every type of matter has three sets of influence. One from one planetary logos, second from the Devaraja of the plane, and let's say the sixth means the astral plane of every type of matter is influenced by the Devaraja in charge of the astral plane, and the sixth subplane of every plane of every type of matter is also influenced by the same Devaraja. Okay, is it clear? It's a bit confusing, but I hope it's clear.
Repeat this one. Can you repeat?
Okay,
Sorry.
yes. Okay, we discussed in the previous section that every type of matter is influenced by one of the planets, okay? One of the planetary logos that we said, it's also one ray, let's say. Okay, so we will discuss about rays shortly a little bit more. Then, to understand better, we take astral plane as an example. Okay, now every plane is influenced by one Devaraja. Okay, let's take the example of the astral plane. So it means the astral plane of every type of matter is influenced by the Devaraja which is in charge of the astral plane. And then every 6 subplane of every plane is also being influenced by the same Devaraja. Because this is number 6, you see. So the 6th plane and the 6th subplane of every plane is being influenced by the Devaraja in charge of the astral plane. So it means every type of matter is influenced by 3 forces. Force number 1, one of the 7 planetary logoi. Number 2, the Devaraja of the plane as a whole. And number 3, the Devaraja of the subplane to which that portion of matter belongs. The Lord of the 7 rays are, yes, initiation 6, but then planetary logo is initiation 10. So means the basis of the 7 rays is from the planetary logo. But then, as we discussed earlier, that in every company we have different heads of different departments. So we have hierarchy of responsibilities. Okay, so as we have like one CEO, then we have head of departments, and every department has different groups, head of the group and everything. So the world is like that. So the basis of the 7 rays is the planetary logos, but we also have lords of the rays who are also influenced by the planetary logos. Something like that. Okay, so first we have what is often described as the vertical influence of the 7 planets, which is this, as you see in the image. Dividing the matter of the whole plane into 7 types, rays or colors. Okay, so these 7 planets divide the matter of the dividing the matter of the whole plane into 7 types, 7 rays or 7 colors. We will talk about 7 rays in future sessions again. Second, we have the horizontal influence of the 6th Devaraja ruling the plane as a whole, ruling the 6th plane or the astral plane as a whole. Third, we have the influence of the 6th Devaraja again affecting more specifically the 6th subplane of every plane. Okay, so means every type of matter is influenced in 3 ways. One, from one planet, which influence the type, the ray, or the color. Second, from the Devaraja of a certain plane. Example here was the astral plane. And third, from the same Devaraja influence the 6th subplane. Now this happens for every other plane. Yeah, for example, Devaraja in charge of the 7th plane, which is the physical plane, also affects the physical plane, also affects the 7th subplane of every plane. Okay. So that is how the matter of every plane is affected. Okay, so as we discussed, the changes in the consciousness of the planetary spirits are visible in the long history of human races as regular cyclic changes in the temperament of the people. And so any changes happen in the planets, it will affect the whole humanity, affect in the history human races. Okay, now there is another discussion in the book about the staff before we discuss about manus. So based on the book, the staff is actually, we are calling it the solar logos staff. Okay, so the solar logos has his staff, a number of adepts who are not in the service of any particular chain, yet are ever prepared to be sent to the aid of any that need assistance. Okay, members of the staff thus give themselves to the immediate service of the logos to be used by him in any part of the solar system. And this is known to be a great sacrifice. Now, if you remember, we discussed in last session that if a certain soul reaches the goal of a certain chain, then they have 7 different paths to choose from. And one of them was to become the staff of the solar logos. And the staff of the solar logos, they don't have a physical body, but they can make one for themselves through Kriya Shakti. Kriya Shakti means using the power of thought to materialize things. Okay, and then they are not in particular in the service of any chain, but they can be available anywhere that help is needed. Okay, so then it and usually help is needed in the earlier stages of every chain. Okay, because in earlier stages of every chain, there are certain offices or certain departments, let's say, or certain head of certain departments, which is not yet filled by the souls of that chain. So therefore, those responsibilities need to be taken care of by the staff of the solar logos until the humanity reach to a certain degree of evolution that they can actually provide manpower for that responsibility. Okay, so and this usually appears in the earlier stages of every chain. For example, on the first chain of our scheme, the attainment of the first initiation being the appointed level of achievement, none of its humanity reached the Aseka level, much less Buddhahood, which of course is much further on. Consequently, the office of the Buddha and other high offices had to be filled by entities from outside the earth scheme. Later chains also were helped in a similar way. The earth chain itself will in due course have to provide high officials for the earlier chains of other schemes. So it means the office of Buddha, we didn't have anyone from the earth scheme who could be responsible for the office of Buddha in earlier chains of our scheme of evolution. Therefore, from the staff of the solar logos, there were some souls who took that responsibility until humanity reached certain level to provide manpower for that responsibility itself. Okay? So now we will talk about different souls responsible for different what you call activities in this scheme of evolution. So we are going to talk about manus. What is manu? The word manu is a generic term used for a class of directing intelligences of many different grades or ranks. Thus, the manu who precedes over the evolution of 7 successive chains is the manu of a scheme of evolution, though he is usually spoken of as a planetary chain logos. The term is not a very accurate one because it seems to imply that he is in charge of one chain, whereas he has in his chart 7 chains. Oops, it's only one slide here. Okay, so we have different manus. Manu is a generic term used for a class of directing intelligences. So it actually refers to different ranks or different grades. First one is planetary Manu of 7 chains, also known as planetary chain logos. Next one is Manu of a chain. We also call it as chain Manu, who is in charge of development of one chain. Then we have Manu of Manu in charge of development of a round. We call this a round Manu. Then we have a Manu in charge of development of globe period. We call them Manu of globe period. We also have separate Manu for each root race. We have a seed Manu and a root Manu as well, which we will discuss shortly. So again, this is very similar to a company. The company has a CEO, the company has departments. So imagine we call the head of every of these, every rank, head of every group as a Manu. So CEO is known as, let's say, planetary chain logos. Then we have every department. So we call them Manu of the department. Okay, so it's like every rank has a head, and we call this directing intelligence as a Manu. Okay, and then we have several ranks. We have planetary chain logos or planetary chain Manu. Then we have chain Manu, we have round Manu, we have globe period Manu, and we have even root race Manu. Okay, so basically it's a term referring to the head of or the directing intelligence of these different grades. Now we also have the concept of seed Manu and a root Manu. Now what is that? After every chain finish, the seed Manu gather everything, like gather all, it's like a conclusion of the whole chain. Gathers up into himself at the conclusion of a chain all the results of evolution on that chain, transport them into the interchain sphere, the nirvana for the inhabitants of the dying chain, nourishes them within himself, and finally hands them over at the appointed time to the root Manu of the next chain. Okay, so it means after every chain finish, there is one Manu called the seed Manu who gather all the results, then organize them, put them into order, like how is the evolution, how many of each levels we have. It's like organizing everything, and then passes them to the root Manu for the next chain. Okay, so for example, the seed Manu of the moon chain appeared to have a vast plan, according to which he grouped the entities from the moon chain, dividing them after their last death into classes, subclasses, and sub-subclasses in a quite definite way, apparently by some kind of magnetization. This set up particular rates of vibration, and the people who could work best at one such rate were grouped together, and those who worked best at another rate were similarly grouped, and so on. These groups appeared to form themselves automatically in the heaven world, much as fine dust will form itself into figures on a vibrating disc under the impact of a musical note. So it's like the seed Manu creates certain vibration, and then the souls who can work in a certain group, in a certain rate or vibration, they are grouped together, and they get ready to be handed over the root Manu for the evolution of the next chain. So in bringing over from the moon chain to the earth chain, a class of human beings with, basket work, this is, makes it a bit confusing, so let's not talk about it. So it means once the root Manu from the moon chain gathered everything, grouped them in specific classes, subclasses, sub-subclasses, then passed whatever result into root Manu of the earth chain. So the great plan is in the mind of the seed Manu, and the root Manu receives it from him and works it out in the next chain, in the new chain over which he works. So it's like, as we discussed, the seed Manu gathers everything, then group them, and has a certain idea in his mind what should be the next evolution, like path, and then pass all of this to the root Manu, and the root Manu tries to materialize the idea of the seed Manu. Manu is different grades, so we cannot say Manu is which initiation. Okay, it's like head of each department, like that, based on my understanding. Like the development of the CEO is different from the development of the department head, is different from the development of the group head, something like that. So Manu simply refers to that directing intelligence, but they are in different classes, different grades, each taking care of a certain responsibility in relation to the whole scheme of evolution. Okay, so we discussed about Manus. Now we discussed about Buddhas, Mahachohans, and Bodhisattvas. So we have seen that Manu are particularly monarchs who are concerned with the evolution of the different races of men. They represent the ruling department which guides all natural evolution, changes the face of the surface of the globe, builds and destroys continents, raises fresh races, controls the destinies of nations, shapes the fate of civilizations, balances up from time to time the great accounts between the races and the nations, and rules the outer destinies of men. So that was the responsibility of different Manus, as we discussed. So they are basically in charge of, they're like a ruling department, guides all the natural evolution, they changes the face of nations, fate of civilizations, root races, and all of this. Now there is another great department which is in charge of religion and education. And it is from this that all the greatest teachers have come, and that all religions have been sent forth. The official at the head of this department, with a rank 2 grades above that of master or aseka adept, is variously known as the Bodhisattva. Okay, so Manus were mostly in charge of the whole evolution. We have another department. This is the Department of Education and Religion. Okay, and then the official at the head of this department is Bodhisattva, Bodhisattvahood. Okay, Bodhisattva is in initiation number 7, which, as the book says, 2 grades above the Holy Mastership. We said that the Holy Master is in initiation 5, so this makes Bodhisattva be in initiation level 7. Bodhisattvahood or Christhood. So it means Bodhisattva or Christ is in charge, or the official at the head of this Department of Education and Religion. You know, like government, they have different departments. Each department is in charge of certain activities or certain, certain activities related to the whole nation. In the spiritual world is similar. So we have a certain officials who are in charge of the whole evolution, natural evolution, all the races, civilizations, which we discussed, they are Manus. Then we have another department who is in charge of religion and education. The head is Bodhisattva or Christ. Initiation number 6. So initiation number 7. He watches over the spiritual destinies of mankind. He either comes himself or sends one of his pupils to found a new religion when he decides that one is needed. Okay, here is a bit of discussion about different initiations. Yes, exactly, like prime ministers and then ministers of every department in the spiritual world is something like that. So a bit of discussion about initiation so you understand who is in what initiation. So initiation level 6, initiation level 4 was the Arhat, which we discussed earlier. Initiation 5 was also ascended masters that we discussed again, which is the goal of earth chain. Initiation 6 are known as the lords of the 7 rays. So first ray, Master Moria. Second ray, Master Kutumi. Third ray, Paul the Venetian. Fourth ray, Serapis Bey. Fifth ray, Master Hilarion. Sixth ray, Master Jesus. Seventh ray, Master Rakotsi. So their coordinator and communications director is Master Dual Kul. So making a total of 8 at this level. Initiation level 7 is known as Bodhisattvahood, avatar or Christhood. So as we discussed just now, the official at the head of the Department of Religion and Education is Bodhisattva or Christ or avatar, initiation level 7. Initiation level 8 is Buddhahood. Okay, so the task is to focus the 7 rays from Sanat Kumara through dual kul to the Kohans of 7 rays. We will discuss about Sanat Kumara later on. So some names for you. So the third root race, in the third root race, the Bodhisattva was Lord Kashyapa, who in the fourth root race became a Buddha. And in the fourth root race, the Bodhisattva was Lord Gautama. Now, who is Lord Gautama? The Bodhisattva of the past in the fourth root race, who gave the earlier religions of the fifth or Aryan root race, is now Lord Buddha. Now, he was the world teacher. He came to the first sub-root race as Vyasa and founded Hinduism, the religion of the sun. He taught as Hermes in Egypt, founding the religion of light. He came as Zoroaster to Persia about 31,000 years ago, proclaiming the religion of fire. He came as Orpheus to Greece, teaching music and sound. He came for the last time in Hindustan, there to reach the illumination of the Buddha, and with Buddhism closed the Asian cycle, leaving to his successor the continuance of the work of the world teacher. Okay, so the deep reverence and the strong affection felt for Lord Gautama Buddha all over the East are due to 2 factors. One of these is that he was the first of our humanity to attain the Buddhahood, and so he may truly be described as the first fruits of the leader of our race. The second fact is that for the sake of hastening the progress of humanity, he took upon himself certain additional labors of the most stupendous character. The attainment of Buddhahood is not simply the gaining of enlightenment. It is also the taking of a great and definite initiation. Okay, so basically, Lord Gautama Buddha was the world teacher for the 4th root race. And as we discussed earlier, he came as different world teachers for Hinduism, then as Hermes in Egypt, then as Zoroaster in Persia, and again in Buddhism. He came and developed Buddhism and then attained Buddhahood. Now, Lord Gautama Buddha is very important for us, and there is a lot of reverence towards him all over the East because of two things. One is that he is the first of our chain who achieved Buddhahood, of our humanity to attain Buddhahood. Second, when someone becomes Lord Buddha, like when someone becomes Buddha, they will not incarnate upon earth anymore. Okay, they usually send their successor. But he still remains in very close contact with humanity. And that we see every year during Vesak celebration. So you see, during Vesak, Lord Buddha comes closer to the earth and then still provides blessing for the humanity to help facilitate and speed up the evolution of humanity on earth. That's why Lord Gautama Buddha is, there is a lot of respect toward him. So once he attained Buddhahood, he passed the work of being the world teacher to Lord Maitreya, also known as the Christ. So the successor of the Lord Buddha, the present Bodhisattva, is the Lord Maitreya, known to the West as the Christ. He came first as Krishna in the Indian plains, and then to the fifth sub-race of our present root race as the Christ in Palestine. He is, so far as we know, destined to appear again on earth and give religious teachings suited to the particular needs of the 6 and the 7 sub-races of the 5th root race. Then he will pass on and become the Buddha of the 6th root race. Okay, so you see, whoever is Bodhisattva in one root race attain Buddhahood in the next, becomes the Buddha of the next root race, and then pass over the responsibility of the world teacher to the next successor, to the next person. Okay, so the 6th root race, Bodhisattva of the 6th root race, or the world teacher of the 6th root race, supposed to be Lord Kutumi. And then the Buddha becomes Lord Maitreya, who is the Christ. So Master Kutumi becomes the world teacher in the 6th root race. So this is clear, right? It's just like a story. Who was the teacher, and then who was the world teacher, and then he became the Buddha, and then passed over the responsibility to the successor. The successor becomes the world teacher, and then attain Buddhahood in the next, becomes the Buddha in the next root race. Any questions so far? Yes, it's becoming easier as we go further, especially the last session will be about races and root races and sub-root races. It really becomes like a story. Okay, so we discussed about Manus, we discussed about Buddhas, Bodhisattvas. Now we will discuss about one more thing, the Lord of the world. Okay. So there is on our earth globe a great official known as the Lord of the world, who represents the solar logos and is in absolute control of all the evolution that takes place upon this planet, not only that of humanity and of the animal, vegetable, mineral, and elemental kingdoms, but also of the great non-human kingdoms of the nature spirits and devas. He must not, of course, be confused with the spirit of the earth. This earth, this great official known as the Lord of the world, is known as Lord Sanat Kumara, which, as we discussed earlier in the chat group discussions, is initiation 9. Now, he came to the Earth globe from the Venus scheme of evolution in the middle of the 4th round, which we are now present, and in the middle of the 3rd root race, which was the Lemurians. We will discuss about root races later. The purpose of the coming was, number 1, to quicken mental evolution, number 2, to found the occult hierarchy of the earth, and number 3, to take over the government of the earth globe. Okay, so to speed up, basically, to speed up the evolution of the humanity from the Venus scheme of evolution, this Lord of the World, or Lord Sanat Kumara, came with 3 other Kumaras, with his students. And their purpose was to help the humanity evolve faster. Just we discussed in earlier chapters, we're supposed to be focusing on development of emotion or desire in this round, but we are already developing the mental faculty. And this is because of the help of Sanat Kumara and his students, who helped to accelerate the evolution. Okay, so with Sanat Kumara came 3 Kumaras, his pupils or students, who serve as his assistants. They stand at the level of the Buddha and are called Pratyeka Buddhas. Okay, so Lord Sanat Kumara with 3 other students or 3 other Kumaras, they came down from the Venus scheme of evolution to help accelerate the evolution of the human, not only human, but the whole evolution of the Earth chain, Earth scheme of evolution. So you see, although we are separate, distinct schemes of evolution, but the whole thing in the universe is evolving, and it's like help is coming from different schemes. So when the Earth scheme of evolution needed help from Venus scheme of evolution, Lord Sanat Kumara with the students came to help. Okay, now if you remember earlier in earlier chapters, we discussed about the judgment days, and we discussed that in the middle of the Earth's chain, the door was shut from the animal kingdom to enter the human kingdom. So this Lord Sanat Kumara, with the help of his students, came before that to help and push whoever from the animal kingdom who is ready to take up, to become individualized and to take up a human body, like to join the human kingdom, to accelerate and push whoever ready. So it's like their energy helped, how to describe that. Imagine like the energy of the sun is there, but then you use a lens to focus the energy of the sun. So their help was like a lens to focus the energy of the sun and then improve and accelerate the evolution of the animal kingdom, the animals who were ready to join the human kingdom. Now, according to the book, none of the lords from Venus, as they are often called, took incarnation in our humanity at all. They did not, in fact, and could not take human bodies. Instead, they built for themselves vehicles like the highest ideals of the human form in appearance, yet absolutely unlike it in that they are uninfluenced by time and are incapable of change or decay. So means to help humanity evolve, they took human form. But they didn't incarnate as human, they just made a body using Kriya Shakti for themselves. But because this body is not really like an incarnation in the human, they are just building this body using Kriya Shakti or the power of the thought, the body that they made doesn't follow, how to say, decay, doesn't change, doesn't become, doesn't, how to say, doesn't decay. They are not influenced by time. So although these bodies have been worn for 16 million years, they still remain precisely as on the day when they were made by Kriya Shakti. Okay, like as you see, our bodies are influenced by time and they get older through time. The bodies that they made for themselves to incarnate as human on earth to help evolution faster doesn't follow decay. It doesn't get older by time. This is what it means. Okay, so their dwelling place is somewhere in a sacred land, but actually it's not really physical land. You may have heard about Shambhala before. You know, when we are discussing about Vesak, you may have heard that it happens in a certain desert in Shambhala. So that Shambhala is a place that they dwell, they live. Once in every 7 years, the Lord of the world conducts at Shambhala a great ceremony, somewhat similar to the Vesak event, but on a still grander scale and of a different type. When all the adepts and even some initiates below their grade are invited and have thus an opportunity to come into touch with their great leader. Okay, so like they conduct certain ceremonies and gatherings once in 7 years in Shambhala, and then they discuss about things. And these initiates get in contact with Lord of the World, their great leader. Okay, so when they came to the world, they actually helped to develop humanity mentally. So the effect produced on the mental evolution of our globe by the coming of the Lords of the Flame, this we may divide into two parts. First, the effort produced on humanity generally, and secondly, the influence they created on the animal kingdom. So as we discussed earlier, when they came, one of the great help that they did was to push the animal kingdom who were ready to take and to go forward to the human kingdom, because the door was about to shut, which we discussed in previous session. And the second help they did was to develop the intellect of the human kingdom. Although we're supposed to focus on emotions on this round, but you see we are already developed in intellect, and this was because of the help of the Lord of the World, or Lord Sanat Kumara. They are also known as the Lords of the Flame. Okay, any questions so far? So today we went a bit fast. I was thinking of focusing, discussing the Earth scheme of evolution in the next session, so that we can focus on the whole scheme of evolution from the first chain to the Earth chain, which we are right now. Okay, so if that is okay with you, we will finish today a bit earlier, because if we start this, we may stop in the middle, and then we have to continue from the middle again next session, which might not be really, desirable. What do you think? So I was thinking next session we can focus on discussing about the whole Earth scheme of evolution, and then we add one more session where we just focus on the root races, from the first root race to the fifth root race, which we are right now. And then we will finish. And for the next month, so next month we will be left with 3 weeks. We will focus on the book Thought Forms. And then we are thinking in August we can focus on reading a book about 7 rays, and we can go deeper. We touched it a bit in this session, discussing about how each monad comes forth from one planetary logoi, which is also connected with one ray, one quality, one color. So we will discuss about that maybe in August. Okay? So any questions so far? This session was not that hard, yeah? I hope it was fine. So next session, we will discuss about the Earth scheme of evolution, starting from the first chain until the Earth chain, which we are right now. We will also discuss about the moon chain and what happened to the moon chain, what was the result of evolution in the moon chain, and then what happened to those group of souls in the Earth chain. So thank you so much. Hope you enjoyed the session. And we encourage this further discussions in the group, because sometimes as we go through the book, sometimes we go fast, sometimes we go slow, and sometimes when you hear it for the first time, maybe the question doesn't come in, so we have to read it again and again, and then questions start to come. So it will be good actually to discuss that in the group so that we understand this more, and it will make the future study sessions easier because we have already seen the bigger picture in this book, the solar system. So thank you so much. Have a good evening and see you in the next session next week, Saturday. Atma Namaste.